Talofalava Samoa e momolava o na whawhelo fo'i le whawhonganga le tātou atunu ne lava tai au po nei fo'i tuolaso. O le tātou pokalama nei lava so o le a whaautu tonu lea I se whātalanoinga o le sunga ia Elias Mcgraw. O ia leo se tasi o sui tau wā ia mo le tātou māloi nei o le tātou whainga whono I nei Salt Lake City. Ia ma o le a talanoina nisi o mta opu tā ua lava. E au ngā I o na tātou sila fia ia nei lau fo'i sui tau wā. Ia ma mea fo'i o lo tau mwhai o ia I nei mwhai o na whātinoina. Yeah, thank you, Elias. We really appreciate your coming be with us this morning.
Thank you.
I believe that we had a chance to meet with some of our Polynesian community up at the Flag Day celebration in Taylorsville and other events. But we wanted to see if you can, talk with us. We feel that you can be a great asset to our Polynesian community or our Polynesian people. So let's talk about that so we can, our viewers, Polynesian viewers or whoever views the program can see that value of your, running for office from District 36, right?
38.
38. And maybe you can also explain where District 38 is, and the area that it covers. But let me ask you to share some information about yourself.
Well, thank you. First, I'd like to say that it was a pleasure for me to be part of the Samoan Flag Day celebration. It was very touching. I really enjoyed the opportunity, and so thank you very much for allowing me to be there. So my name is Elias Mcgraw. I know I have a Palangi name, but I was adopted. I was initially I was born in Brazil, and then came to the United States when I was about 11 years old, and so that's a little bit of my background. In Brazil, they speak Portuguese, and actually, the Brazilian tribes that were there even before the Portuguese came. They're some of the in their history, it talks about how some of their people went up in the off the coast,
right.
And eventually they built boats and went
canoes
to
and
then went to the islands. So we're essentially the same people, and it is very important to me to be involved in the Polynesian community. I have always been, since I was in junior high and high school with my friends, and I think that going back to the fact that I am running for office. I'm not a career politician. I'm a retired police officer, and one of the important reasons why I'm doing that is because of the need in the minority communities, in the Polynesian community, as well as all the other ethnic groups.
Elias, you mentioned that you were a retired police officer, and you're also part of a gang unit. Can you tell me a little bit about that? What did you do with that?
Well, I was a police officer. I worked for the state of Utah. Before that, I was with the Provo Police Department, and I've had several different assignments. I worked undercover. I also have worked as clandestine laboratory specialist. I was assigned to the gang unit at one point in time, and so I've had the opportunity to see a lot of different things, and I was also I did some work with DA. I was trained by DA.
Okay.
And other federal agencies.
Okay, great. So I think with that experience you probably work with different ethnic groups in here in the state of Utah. Is that right? Did you get to know some other ethnic groups?
Definitely. Unfortunately, I mean, you start looking at gangs, and there are gangs from all kinds of different ethnic groups, but it affects everybody, and kids start early, oftentimes because they're looking for support. They're looking for they're looking to belong, and so sometimes they end up getting involved in things that they shouldn't end up in. But we have some wonderful kids, very talented, as we were talking about before.
Well, that's great. Do you think that with your past experience, what helps you to decide or to have the desire to run for public office?
Well, initially, I'm going to tell you that I'm as I mentioned, I retired. I retired early. I pulled over a possible DUI, and as I was walking to the suspect's car, I was hit by another DUI. And we like to joke and say, well, that night I got 2 DUIs at once, but actually one of them got me. And so the DUI, it was going about 70 miles an hour. Luckily, struck my patrol car and then struck me. And so it's taken a long time for me to recover. But one important thing is that that's how I discovered that Utah is one of 3 states in the nation that has no medical retirement for police officers. Mm-hmm. We're not taking very good care of our police officers, of our firemen, of our teachers, and especially our kids. We have the lowest funded education system in the country, and so initially I would say that the first 2 pressing issues that really propelled me to decide to run for public office was the fact that we need to take better care of our working families, better care of our police officers, and then I have kids that go to school. They go to school in the Kearns area, and so I see the need. I started a neighborhood watch program in the Kearns area in District 38, right. And 70% of the graffiti that we have is actually not related to gangs. It's related to kids that have nothing to do after school. We don't have.
They get bored. And
yeah.
Looking for something to do, huh?
Yeah, and in my district, minorities are not the minorities. We are the majority. And so you start looking at the fact that most of the kids that we have in that district, they are minority kids, and they already come from different cultures, or they don't have the economic strength that other people have, and there's definitely a need there.
Okay, with District 38. What's the boundary? Where is the boundary for District 38 that you represent?
Well, it's kind of a crazy thing if you look at the map. But on my website, there's a map there, and you can also find it on the state or the county website. But basically, the boundaries go from 4700 south to 70th south, and then from 4015 west to 6400 west. The thing, though, is that the position that I'm running for is Utah State House Representative. So it's state Congress, even though we don't call it that, Utah State Legislature, and that means that I will not be representing only the people in District 38. I will be representing everybody in the state of Utah.
That's interesting. That's a very interesting point, because that encompasses all the other communities that are around you.
Yeah.
So, and that's probably why it makes you a very strong candidate in helping our community. How about talk a little bit about some of the issues that you are aware of? Maybe not only with Polynesian, but if there are some specific issues with the Polynesian community that you are aware of, would you share that with us? That's probably part of your platform anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and really, as I mentioned, the two important things are working families and education. I think education being the first one, but there are many things that we need to do. There's there's so much need, so many things that we need to do. We need better representation, and especially for minorities, because there's a lot of misunderstandings.
That's true.
One of the very important things for minorities is education. And I just mentioned that Utah is has the lowest funded education system in the entire country. Our nation, last I checked, and that was last year, is in 37th in the world, and we're the most powerful nation in the world. It used to be that education was a matter of national security. At least it was treated that way. It's still a matter of national security, but it's definitely not treated that way, and certainly not here in the state of Utah. So I would say that education is definitely one very important thing. But you start looking at education is not just about going to school and getting a diploma, going to college, the means to go to college, which we definitely need to work on. And we have some politicians that are trying to take away, the ability of the common citizen of this country to receive a proper education.
Right.
But education, as far as I'm concerned, has to do with many things. For an example, education ties into healthcare. Okay? Our diet and the way we live makes a difference. The fact that in the schools we don't have a lot of emphasis on physical education reflects on our health.
So raising the level of awareness on issues that affects us in health-wise is a very big education process right there.
Exactly, and if you look at the Polynesian community itself, Polynesian community has the highest rate of infant mortality in the state of Utah out of any ethnic group.
Interesting.
The Polynesian woman, over 50% of them don't receive proper prenatal education and care. So, there are a lot of things. I mean, I've suffered from gout. A lot of us suffer from gout because of our diet, because of our lack of understanding sometimes. So there are a lot of different things that we need to look at and try to change by educating people, by creating programs. And one interesting thing is that it is more difficult for a minority, and specifically Polynesian people, to say, okay, I'm going to go to the doctor. There are misunderstandings. Of course, there's the cost. Okay, a lot of us can't afford it, and so there's a need for us to come together. And there are different groups out there. The Pacific Islander Coalition is trying to do some great things about that. And I think that we need to embrace that as a community, not just for the Polynesian community, but for all ethnic groups. But something that's very important is that, I just mentioned that we're not the minority, we're the majority in my district, the minorities. And so, there are more of us. And so we need to make sure that everybody, not just minority people, but that everybody is coming to the table and trying to make a difference.
So the best way to have our voice heard in Congress or in the government is for us to elect officers that represent our needs, represent what we lack.
Very true.
And what we need to push forward. Other than that, we're not going to be getting anything at all. And that's why it's so important to elect the right people, in office that really represent what we stand for and what we need. So it's important for people to go out and vote and make sure that that's how their voice are being heard, if they go out and select people, that they trust and they need.
Very true, and really the reason why I decided to run for office is because, really I haven't felt that I'm being represented. I mean, these issues that we're talking about, they're issues of lack of representation. Somebody that is supposed to be representing us in government is not, and so that is why I decided to run for office. Now, something that most of us, and talking about that education need that we were talking about just now, that it's not just within the schools, but it comes, it has to be in the home as well, and in the community. Most of us don't vote. And the interesting thing is that we're now the majority. So if we're the majority, that means that we have power through vote. That means that we can, I'll give you, statistically speaking, I know I don't know a lot of different numbers for every ethnic group, but I was looking at the statistics from the last census that the federal government conducted, and 35 to 37% of the people in District 38 actually are Latinos that can actually vote. That's not counting all the Polynesians, all the Asians, and all the different ethnic groups. And so we're truly the majority. And when we have numbers like that, that means that we have power. We have power through our vote. And I know that, typically minorities don't go out to vote. A lot of us are not even registered to vote. But the important thing is that we understand that it is not only our right, but our duty. And when we do not vote, we're, in essence, voting.
We're really throwing away our right, the right that is rightfully ours, to be able to make a vote. And, that's why it's so important for all our Pacific Island, to go out and register. Is there a number that they can call if they want to register?
You could go to the to Salt Lake County, Sherry Swenson's office. She has a website. You can register there. The state also has that. But if you go to my website, it's www.eliasmcgraw.com. So Elias Mcgraw or eliasmcgraw.com. You can actually register to vote there. There's also a map of the district, and also we're doing voter registration. That's something extremely important. So important that we are actually going to people's homes and knocking on their houses and trying to talk to them about registering to vote. So I have the paperwork, and you can call me as well. It's 801-577-6088, 577-6088.
You can also call 801-427-2900 of Pacific World Enterprises, and we'll make sure that you're directed to the right place. We really encourage all our Pacific Islanders. Sometimes politicians don't pay too much attention to our needs because they know that we're not very well represented at the polls. And so what we need to do is we need to go out and register ourselves. Especially this year, there's a lot of very important positions that will be filled this year. Starting from the President of the United States, going down to the governor race, but we encourage you to go out and register so you can vote. And Elias, I wanted to share why you feel our Polynesian community It needs to come out and support, even though you're from Brazil, a different ethnic background, but why you strongly feel that, you're the right person for all the ethnic groups out there, to support and put to office. I know you mentioned a few things that, you really represent us, and that's important. We really need a voice in there that represent the needs of our community. Is there anything else that you think we need to bring up that is so important?
Well, today you're going out to vote for me. I'm asking you to come out and support me, and yes, and the reason why I'm saying that is because I am of brown color. I am a minority myself. I understand. I'm an immigrant. I was born in another country, but I believe that that we can make a difference, not just for minorities, but for everybody in this country. One very important thing, and I was talking about this to somebody, and sometimes we don't understand, the magnitude. And to be honest with you, I haven't always viewed things the way that I view now. But Utah has not a majority, but a super majority in government, in Utah State Legislature. Super majority. That means that we have two major parties in this country. We have the Republicans and we have the Democrats. That means that one party, and in this case in Utah is the Republicans. I don't have an issue with any party. I believe that we should vote for the best person for that job, be he or she, the best person for that job. And so, but currently we have a super majority of Republicans. That means that they don't have to even be concerned when they try to pass a law. I was talking to a person lately here. She just happened to be Republican. And I said, remember, when you're sitting around and complaining about the problems that we have in government or the laws that passed that weren't right or whatever the issue might be, remember that you went over there and just pressed that button and voted for only one party without care of is this the right person for the job or not? Right. Is this the person that's going to truly represent?
And I think it's important to point out that during the primary election, that you vote, the Republican would like you to vote as a Republican. But when you're going to the general election, you can vote for anybody. Well, as a Republican, you can vote Democrat. As Democrat, you can vote. So in other words, you're voting for the person that you really want to see get into that office.
Yeah, it used to be, that there was a time, you start looking at when Pearl Harbor happened, right? We were attacked and the country came together. We weren't divided by parties. We were united by the situation, by the fact that we were all in this country. Even if there were people that went to war to fight for liberties, and they weren't even citizens.
Right.
So I think we need to get back to that. We need to get back to working with one another, to try to not just. I'm not just talking about politicians, but in your neighborhood, in your community. Mm-hmm. It's important that we come together and we work together for the betterment of our community. And why do I think? Why am I asking you for a vote? Why do I think I would represent you? Simply because I understand. I have grown up with the Polynesian community. I played football. I coach football now, Little League football with a great group of guys that are Polynesian, that are African American or Hispanic and Palangi. I'm just an all-around person.
So you have a wealth of experience working with all different ethnic groups, which is really important. Now, been asking the community to support you. What kind of support are you looking at? So you can tell them what exactly do you need?
Well, running a campaign, a political campaign, is very difficult. I am a medically retired police officer, and so I may not have as much funds as somebody else. We're looking for donations. We are also, the most important thing is volunteers. We need to go door to door. We need to go take our message of change, because it is time. My opponent has been there for 11 years. It is time for change. And for me to be able to get the message out, I need volunteers, we need printed material, and we need people, especially, we need our people to register to vote. We need our people not only to register to vote, but when it comes time to vote on November 6th, that they actually go out and vote. If you're disabled, get a ride. It is important. It's the only thing that will change our future and the future of our children. We need to make sure that we have people that represent us, and it's so important.
So when people volunteer to help, Elias, they come and they walk with you throughout the community, right? Knocking doors and passing out flyers, but also you need people to set up registration booth or tables somewhere, helping people to register. That's important, because if you don't register, then you have no opportunity.
Very true. So we need people to make phone calls. We need people to help us walk to door to door. We need people to help us do voter registration. We do voter registration when we go door to door, as well as there are businesses that are willing to let us set up a table out there, as you mentioned. But there are different organizations. So I know there are some churches in the district. We have just in Kearns alone, there's at least 10 different denominations, and they're very involved in the political process from the standpoint of they need to be registered to vote, and they need to go out and vote. And everybody has, the church can't come out and necessarily support a candidate.
Right,
but the people in the church have the right.
But the church encourage everybody to participate. They don't point out which candidate, but they encourage all the members to participate. And that's your vote, to go cast your voice. And then if a representative comes into office that doesn't meet our needs, we don't have any reason to complain, because we haven't done our job, putting those that we want to put in office. Yeah.
And Vi, I'd like to take it a step further. If a political representative is not representing you, you have the right to vote for somebody else that will. You have the right to look for somebody that will represent you, which means that next time you don't vote for him or her. That next time you look for somebody else that that's going to do that. Now here's another thing too. Who can better represent us than ourselves, right? We need to empower our kids and our people to actually step up and be involved in the community and also run for office.
Great.
And we need to stand behind them.
I totally agree with you, Elias, and we're coming to the ending of our interview over here. Is there any pressing issue or any last words that you want to say to our community? And then I'll say some closing remarks and after that.
Okay. So I would just ask you to make sure that you're involved in your community, that you support the different programs to further education, to empower the kids in our community, and to improve our communities. But most important, it is important that we understand that our vote is power, and we need to make sure that we're registered to vote, that our families, that our friends, that everybody has that understanding, is willing to come out and vote for that person that they truly believe that's going to represent them. And so, from that perspective, I think that that is one of the most important things we can do. That's how we can change the future. That's how we can change policy that is going to affect the future of our people.
So that's a key point, is getting involved, getting there and become part of the system, and instead of sitting around, sitting on the fence, waiting for something else to happen. So we're grateful for that. We'd like to thank you again, my friend Elias Mcgraw. Appreciate your involvement in our community. You have come up and support a lot of our events, and so we really appreciate that. Ia nau tō whawhonga mai ia malo tātou o tunu o whaatanoanga ma le sunga ia Elias Mcgraw. Ia o se tasi leo sui tau wā ni tau sanga. Ia mo le tātou whainga malo i nei uta. Ia a whapea o le asau whawhonganga. Ai e mawhai ona e sapsapaia ia nei lava uso e tusai malona whamoe moe. Ia o le whaitadia lava oe. Ai o le mea sili on tau, ia tātou wō ma tātou whaia se mea teimine o tātou te nofu. Whawhatai fo i le sunga ia Albert Ainu o lo po e ina le tātou po kalamba ne le vaso. Ia manuia lava le whaasausaunga Samoa, ia soifua.